All right. Well, what is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us live here on YouTube. For those of you that know me, hopefully some of you know me, I'm John with Sunshine State Adventure Company, and I'm joined today by some great friends of mine, Mark and Josh from Sons of Liberty Overland. Really excited to have them on. What I was hoping was going to be more of a reoccurring thing. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do a fat stories like once every other week or something like that. And that has not happened. So excited to have some awesome guys on to talk about their experience on the Florida Adventure Trail. I got to meet Josh and Mark. What was that? Year before last at Save Expo, if that's right. So just immediately hit it off with them. They went out and ran the Florida Adventure Trail together and had a unique experience, but really had a ton of fun as well, and have a unique perspective on overlanding on the Florida Adventure Trail on Florida itself. So guys, thanks so much for being on our little Fat Stories show. I'm excited to have you all on. And I'm now hearing myself talk in the background. So excited to have you guys on. Mark, Josh, I've already introduced your names, but you can say them again. Tell us a little bit about who you are in Sons of Liberty Overland.
Cool. Thanks, John. It's cool to be on, and hopefully we'll have some fun. So we just formed a little group called Sons of Liberty Overland. It's just a group of friends and family that we like to camp, we like to adventure, travel. We're patriots, hence kind of the name. We mainly did it just to, have a reason to post some content to share with friends. We're not trying to be content creators or anything, but a lot of people say, well, you guys should, because we do a lot of fun trips, a lot of cool, do-it-yourself projects and things like that nature. Admittedly, we're going to try to get better at posting some more of our projects and things like that. But, we're not trying to be content creators or come up with a giant channel, but we just like to get out and have fun, and wanted to create a little brand for it. And that's kind of how it came about.
That's awesome. Yeah. Josh, you and your dad have an awesome Instagram account. I'm going to show it here on the screen. So for those of you that are on Instagram, you should absolutely check out their Instagram. It is Sons of Liberty Overland, and they're always doing all different types of really cool projects, especially on the electrical side of things. Josh, you know more than I could ever possibly learn about GRMS radios and battery stuff and solar. So you're always posting cool stuff. I'm always learning something from following along with you. And Mark, we've got a picture here up of you working on some solar stuff as well in your chair. So Mark, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and what it's like to be an adventurer in a chair.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm Josh's dad, Mark. So that's my greatest pleasure. And so I grew up doing absolutely epic adventures as a young man and a child. My father and my grandfather were master guides in the Great Northern Maine Woods, which is the largest. I just saw a statistic recently. There are more timber and woods in the state of Maine than any of the other 50 states.
Wow.
Literally. And the Great Northern Maine Woods is a massive expanse of millions of acres of wood. So they would literally hand make cedar canoes, 20-foot canoes, and we would load up everything we needed for like 4 or 5, 6 days, sometimes a week, and go for miles and miles and days on the river and live out of those canoes and camp on the banks and fish and all that. That's so awesome. It was in my blood as the greatest memories ever. And, I got hurt about 40 years ago playing football. And I literally had my fraternity brothers capture me out of the hospital. And I remember going on a canoe trip, one of my last ones with my dad. And I had a halo. I had the neck brace on. My halo was off. I'm in the canoe, and it wasn't the safest thing to do, but that's the passion I had. And today it's just such a privilege to be able to do it in a vehicle-based adventure, which is a lot easier at age 63 and 4 years as a quad. So I absolutely love it. And it's been a blessing, and just my favorite thing to do. Literally, I spend all my time thinking about it and planning these trips.
Mark, when I had the privilege of meeting you and Josh 2 years ago at Save Expo, which for those of you that don't know, Save Expo is the Southern Adventure Vehicle Expo Expo here in Florida. It's an incredible event. If you ever get the chance to go, you should absolutely go. It's one of our favorite events every year. But yeah, I got to meet you guys, and I was just blown away by both of you. Your love for adventure, your love for overlanding, your love for each other as a father and son adventure duo, and was just super impressed with you guys, and it established a friendship between us. So, Mark, obviously you grew up doing all different types of adventure stuff, but what really attracted you and Josh, and you guys can answer this collectively or individually, what really drew you all into vehicle-based adventure travel? How did you what were the steps that got you there? Tell us about some of the vehicles that you've had along the way.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's fun to think back. So back in high school,
You had cool ones.
I had two FJ40 Land Cruisers, a 73,
Wow.
and I rolled that one, and I got a 74 Land Cruiser, and rebuilt it, completely restored it, ground frame up in the big barn garage. I'd work after school, make money, then I'd go in the shop and build a fire in the wood stove to stay warm, and work for months rebuilding that. And I also had my very first vehicle was a brown turd colored Jeep in maybe the early 60s. It was 70% wood and about 30% metal, but I was so proud of that because it was my first vehicle.
I bet.
My now current wife, I was dating, Mary, and I remember, and I'm so proud, and I pull up in this Jeep, and I see her look out the window, and then her twin sister, and they burst out laughing. So I'm in a really bad mood. Now you have to picture, this Jeep is old, right? And it's literally got a wood top. It's got the windshield wiper you have to do by hand from the inside. The door is wood with plexiglass screwed, so you can't put the window up. And it had a hook and an eyelet to close the door. Not the safest thing on the road, about 40.
No.
And I was so proud. Like, you had these visions. You all remember your first vehicle. You're going to do all this crazy stuff to it. And that was my first Jeep. I did also have a 73 CJ5 as well. And that one was souped up. It had a big V8 and Holley pipes and Harley carburetor, and would do wheelies, literally pull the front wheels off the ground a foot and a half. So that was more of a road show vehicle. But my Land Cruisers were epic. And so I love doing that. And our favorite thing to do up in Maine was on the weekends, get together and just ride the roads. That's what we did. We didn't know any better. And then, fast forward, you get caught up in life, raising family, that stuff goes away. And then as, Josh started to get a 4-wheel drive, and we just started doing it again. And, here we are. And then we hear about overlanding. We're like, hey, we kind of been doing that for a while now.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's really cool. And you see the gear and they're like, oh my goodness. And it's, we've been building our rigs, ever since for the last 3 years, almost awesome, every month. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Josh, it sounds like, your dad was kind of always into this and grew up doing it. When did you kind of get the bug for off-roading, you think?
So when I was little, we used to go camping with my dad and my uncle quite a bit up in Maine. So we'd kind of, just cruise the dirt roads and go camping. We had a family camp up in northern Maine on the Rustic River. So we'd go there each year and have to, drive across the river and everything to get to camp. And, so that was, once or twice a year kind of a thing. And it was fun. And I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed camping. And same thing kind of during high school or whatever. Didn't really have time to get into that. But after I graduated, I got into hiking and backpacking. And I did the Appalachian Trail, the whole state of Maine. It's like 283 miles. I did it over a few different years. So that got me kind of really back into nature and camping. And that, backpacking got you the skill of like kind of being a minimalist and packing very, very simple, very, very light. And I really dug that. So that was kind of one element of it. I've always enjoyed traveling. So even when I wasn't doing like hiking trips, I'd, been to Europe several times, been out West. And so I like to travel. And again, that kind of minimalist, living out of your bag kind of a thing kind of helped lead its way for it. I've always been into like gear and guns and flashlights and knives and that kind of a stuff. So again, that's always that's a, subsect of overlanding in a way, like being good with your gear and organizing. So all those things kind of led to it. And, I got a Jeep Grand Cherokee like 12 years ago. I had that for like a decade. I didn't really mod it, didn't do anything crazy, but again, that was an excuse to kind of get it and go camping. So all those things kind of just started to pile up into kind of what you consider like overlanding. And then I would say several years ago, we discovered, Expedition Overland before they kind of blew up when they were doing their weekend adventures in Montana and Idaho. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of all the stuff we're into. I just didn't really know it had a name and that it was like a kind of a thing. And then that just kind of led me further down the path. And, here we are today.
Dude, that's awesome.
There's just a bunch of little things that I've always
for sure
added up, and they're all kind of related to it. So that's
that's so cool, man. It's so funny. I get to talk to a lot of people who love the kind of stuff that we love, which is a cool part of this whole it's so, as much as I hate social media at times and the connectivity, I'm like, just get me off the grid. I do love how it connects us, and it is so interesting. All of the little parallels of how we get into the different hobbies that we get into. Growing up, for me, my dad was into the outdoors, but more than anything, he was into cars and motorcycles and racing cars and motorcycles. I mean, we were full-blown import tuner boys, went to the Nopi Nationals. My dad had a Skyline, had a Skyline for forever that he imported from Japan. And when my dad passed away, that became mine. And so I'm working on getting that back on the road. But all of like the modding car stuff was actually what, originally I was super into, drag racing and racing. And then as you get a little bit older and you want to slow down a little bit more and for me personally, I work with people all the time and I love it. But being able to be outside in the outdoors and backpacking and hiking, and then that combined with my love for automotive stuff and pushing the envelope off-road and stuff like that, it just lit my little world on fire from an off-roading perspective. And then like you, I stumbled onto X Overland in the very, very early days of YouTube and them being on YouTube. And I was like, overlanding, what kind of a thing is that? What a stupid name, overlanding, and now it's become a passion of mine, so I think it's so cool. I was even talking with Brad from the Overlanderoos in Asia the other day, and we were joking about Jason Kirchie from Swell Runner and how all of us remember when Swell Runner was on YouTube early, way back in the day with his silver 4Runner, doing the Georgia Traverse, and I think I saw his first ever video when he was doing the Georgia Traverse, and we were trying to plan our first Georgia Traverse trip 7-8 years ago, so it's just funny how those things happen and how this hobby that we love has grown and blown up along the way. And it's something that before my dad passed away that he and I shared together as well. And so it's so cool. That's what I love seeing with you guys, that you guys enjoy this hobby together. And I think that's so freaking cool and such an inspiration, I hope, to dads that are maybe a little bit younger and have little dudes or little girls that are running around and, want to plan their own trips along the way. So I love that, man. And you guys are just awesome. So thanks for chatting, and thanks for running the Florida Adventure Trail. When I first talked about it at Save Expo 2 years ago, Mark, I remember you came up to the booth immediately after all that crazy rain we had. And you were like, man, the Florida Adventure Trail is so cool. And we're going to do it, man. We're going to do it. And I was like, this guy's about to do it. You were so excited about it, and you guys went and knocked it out. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about kind of your experience in totality of doing the Florida Adventure Trail. Now, you guys broke it up into pieces and did such a great job. Again, I'm going to show your Instagram, but you guys did such a great job of documenting that adventure along the way with all of your posts. I think, Mark, were you the one that wrote all the little post updates?
No, I just did a lot of the posting, John, a lot of the notes and photography.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you guys did I love the way that you write. It's really fun just to read the stuff that you write and the way that you write. It makes the adventure really come to life. So just wanted to show that really quickly. There you go. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your time on the FAT.
Yeah. So it's fun. So I have to give credit to Brad of Overlanderoos. I found his video about the Save Expo. I'm not sure when, but early on. And that's when we decided to go to the Save, or plan to go to the Expo. And then, John, I found, I think your videos or Asia's or whatever, the early ones about the FAT. And then I know at that Expo 23, that's when you guys kind of formally announced it, so to speak. So I kind of already knew about it. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. But after that presentation you guys did, that's when we decided, okay, let's run this as a team or as a group, have a goal to, complete the whole thing. So the idea was born at the Expo 23. So I got to give you guys credit for that. But once we decided to do it, that's where I had fun. I love doing the logistics, like of the team or group of friends or whatever. I'm kind of a logistics guy. I like playing with maps, schedules, all the little nuances. I kind of have fun with that. So obviously somebody could just download the fat files and run it. I kind of wanted to plan it out a little more just because, we had multiple people. It's not like out west where you can just pull over and you're like, hey, we're on public land. We can camp everywhere. That's
right.
The drawbacks about Florida, unfortunately, is we can't camp wherever we want. So we kind of wanted to have it mapped out, like where we're going to try to go each day, kind of have a goal, have a backup camp spot, that type of thing. So I had fun geeking out with that quite a bit. I did it early on Guide, downloaded the fat files, and then just started playing with that in Google Maps and research. So to me, that was honestly almost as much fun as running the whole thing, because I enjoy that. But so, like you said, we planned it broke it into 3 different sections just to make it more palatable for people. Not everybody can take, a week straight off and do it. So I tried to find a schedule that would work with most people. So we did Fat 1 over kind of Christmas break, between Christmas and New Year's, that, dead time that, kind of everybody has off. And we started, and I know you tell people you can run it either direction, but we ran it from, the Northeast down around and then up to the Panhandle.
Which I think is the best way. Like, you
Right.
can definitely run it either way. But to me, starting on the East Coast and going to the West Coast is, it doesn't really matter which way you run it, but I just love ending at Hurricane Lake.
Yep.
I think that's like the chef's kiss, end, because that campsite is so sick. So I'm glad you guys ran it that way too.
Yep. So it just, I don't know, it just seemed natural that way. So anyway, so we did that, broke it into 3 sections, and we had I called it day 0. So rather than, hey, we're going to start driving today, and no one, as you guys know, no one shows up on time when you're dealing with multiple people. Things happen, stuff like that. So I called the day 0, and basically where we would camp the night before, and that way the next day, day 1, we could just wake up and hit the trail and be ready to go. So we did that. Did day 0 at Live Oak, which is really cool. I've been wanting to go there. I hadn't camped there yet. And then we drove up to the border where, it technically kind of starts, and we did it. So we had a pretty adventurous first day. So we started with 4 vehicles. The Bronco, I've got the Bronco, my father and I in the Bronco. We had a friend in a Gladiator towing a trailer, a 4Runner, and then had a lifted Audi Q3. So we start the day with 4 rigs, and very soon we were down to 2. So as you know, in Osceola, the water is very, very deep.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty deep then. So the Audi had to turn around real quick, but he didn't get stuck. He was following us, and then it was getting deeper and deeper. Then he's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And we said, we're like, yeah, turn around. You're gonna flood your vehicle. Funny thing was, this was December 30th. So it was right New Year's, or the 29th is like, right before New Year's. And on his way out, he got stuck. And there was another vehicle there that luckily towed him out. But as he was stuck, he had his last sales call for the day, closed a huge order, hit his numbers for the month, hit his numbers for the year. So even though
that's awesome,
he thought he might have ruined his vehicle and was stuck and couldn't do this, he was pretty happy. So that was a little funny side story of that. So now we're down to 3 vehicles. Same thing, going along through deep water. Well, about halfway through the first day, the Gladiator had to bail because his daughter got really sick. She had been sick prior to that, but she wanted to go so bad she lied and said she was feeling good. Her fever spiked up and she just felt like crap. So they had to bail. So now we're down to 2 vehicles. And so I'm thinking, I'm great. This is just all fall. I have all this time planning it, 4 vehicles, and we're going to do this as a team. And it's all just falling apart right away. But as you know, with adventure travel, just plan on it not going as planned. And I've kind of, over the years of just all my different travels and stuff, and kind of learned to adapt and stuff. So anyway, so we roll on, and we kind of get behind schedule a little bit. The first night we get into our camp, so I'm not late, but I don't know, like 6:30 or 7. But of course, it's like pitch black by then, and it's the middle. We're in like northern part of Ocala National Forest, and I figure, I'm like, okay, no one's going to be here. So we pull in, and there's already like 3 groups of people camped. Like, oh crap. And I was kind of late, and I didn't really want to push onto a backup spot. So normally we would, but since it was late, I'm like, let's just tuck in. So we just found a little spot to tuck in the vehicles, 4Runner on this side, Bronco on this side. And I'm like, let's just not bother like setting up a big thing, and just cook a quick thing and just go to bed early and get up and get out of here. So we do that. we're already 2 vehicles down. It was really cold then. It was probably like low 40s that night. And so we get set up, do that. And then across from us, where our friend parked, there's these like dogs barking. And we're like, why isn't the owner coming out to quiet them or whatever? So we're like, just whatever. So he kind of set up on the other side so the dogs wouldn't see them. And, we kind of made it an early night. Anyways, the next morning we wake up and my friend's fiance, now wife, she yells over to me and she's like, oh my God, come here. Apparently the place with the dogs, there was abandoned. There were 3 German Shepherds in kennels that they had been left there. And there was a tent. And then she yelled over to me. She's like, oh my God, there's cats in there too. So we go over and we looked and it was clearly like, because you heard rustling and it was like clearly like abandoned, right? It was this grimy old tent and dogs were in kennel and stuff. So she finally went over and peeked in. And that's when she yelled and discovered there's 3 cats inside the tent. 2 of them were in a little cage and 1 little kitten was walking around. So there's 6 abandoned animals. So now I'm like, oh God, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's New Year's Eve, I think it was the 30th, super cold, no cell signal, already 2 vehicles down. And then she goes in, picks up this kitten and she's like, and I had to put my cat down about 3 months before that. And she's like, oh, you should adopt him. He'd be a great cat dad. And I'm like, let's just figure out what's going on here. Yeah, there he is. And the night we get home. And so, yeah, it was crazy. So then she took him into took the kitten into his tent because the other 2 were in a cage and the dogs were in kennels. So I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. So they were planning to run into town. They went into town. They had an emergency call they had to take care of anyway. So I'm like, all right, call, Forest Service or Animal Control, whoever you can get, tell them where we are. I'm doubt anyone's going to come out. It's the weekend. So then while this is all going on, the kitten's in his tent. I'm feeding the dogs, trying to process, what's going on here. It's like I said, we're already 2 vehicles down. It's just like crazy. Now we're going to deal with this. I'm like, we can't just leave them there. So I'm like, well, let's just wait for someone to come around. So anyways, long story short, they get back. They brought a little cage because they're like, yeah, we just assumed you're going to take the kitten. So while they were gone, I was kind of thinking it over. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this would be kind of a cool story. It's like we're on the first day or, 1 full day in on the FAT and we're already discovering abandoned animals. And it's just a cool story. So I got thinking like, I got to give it a cool name. So I got thinking and I'm like, Ocala. I'm like, we're in the Ocala forest. I'm like, that's kind of a cool name. So we named the now cat Ocala. But what was crazy though, so they get back with a kennel and some food, and then Animal Control comes out, luckily, rescued the dogs, rescued the other cats, and made sure they were safe and got them. So now we still have like 2 more days left to do. My vehicle's already loaded up super full because I've got, him in it, all his gear, his chair, tent. Even though I'm a minimalist, it's like packed pretty full.
Oh yeah.
Right in the center armrest, we have the kennel and the cat sitting there bouncing all out through Ocala, bouncing around. He's meowing.
That's hilarious.
Fun story.
So Ocala is now the 2nd animal that was found on a Florida Adventure Trail, trip somewhere along the way. There's somebody that found a dog when they were running. They were just done with the Florida Adventure Trail and they were headed up and out and they found a dog and they named the dog Macon.
Oh, cool.
There was another group that was up in the Panhandle. They found a dog and somebody adopted that dog. And then just recently, the Florida Adventure Trail, the Florida Trail Stompers, they were out on a trail ride on the FAT together doing one of their FAT trips. And they found a dog that had been, stray and missing or whatever. And
wow.
They eventually, it was kind of a dramatic situation, but they ended up getting the dog back to the owner as well. So it is crazy how many random animal things have happened along the Florida Adventure Trail in such a short period of time. So Ocala is now a fully grown big old cat, huh?
I'll go grab him in a second and I'll show you. But one super quick, interesting side story in that. And now we didn't know this till about a month later. But anyways, for Christmas, my father would get my mom a book called Classic Cat Stories, hardcover book, and just famous stories about cats over the years. And this is crazy. The day that we had found, so she didn't know, so we brought it home as a surprise because there's no cell signal, and we're like, because if you call, like, let's just surprise her with it. So, but the day that we actually got Ocala, she read the first story in that book, and it was about a cat that was lost in the woods.
That's crazy.
What it meant to be. So,
dude, that's so cool.
I'll go grab them, and you can.
Yeah, and just we don't want to make this too much about a cat story, but it is just.
It's cool, man. I think it's awesome.
Like, it's just so cool, and the joy we've gotten from this cat. Josh lost Manny, and my wife loved that cat like tremendous, as much as anything. And so she had done a Christmas tree that year as a cat homage. So she found all kinds of cool cat decorations. So when Josh came back through the door, we didn't say a word, right, about this. And I remember when we left, she goes, "Oh, I wish we had a cat because I'm going to be, lonely while you guys are gone, And then, here he is. Yeah. So here he is. He's a big boy now.
The overlanding cat.
That's so wild, dude. Look at that. Big old cat.
Big boy. I call him a Florida Panther.
Yeah, he is big, man.
Yeah. Wow. So that was just a funny little.
That's crazy.
What
a cool.
So when we came in, Josh walked through the door. I said, "I'll go in first," and then he walked through the door and he said, "I got another cat for your tree." And that was it.
That's awesome. That is so cool, man. I love that story.
So anyway, that long-winded story was this day one. So that shows how.
It was a pretty epic adventure.
For real.
Yeah. So then you guys kind of did a second trip, right? You did the Ocala section.
Yep. Did Ocala, finished that with the cat, got home, and then I think it was 2 weeks later. So back to the logistics. So I tried to plan them over long weekends where there was like a Monday. Monday was a holiday.
Yeah.
That way we could wheel, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and have Monday to kind of work your way back home. And again, if people are kind of short on time or can't get that much time off, I think that's a great way to do it, is have, you only have to miss, I think, 2 Fridays over the whole thing, 2 Fridays off from work or school. And then the weekend, and then that Monday, that third extra day made it nice. So it was 2 weeks later, we did Fat 2. We actually ran Fat 2 backwards, so to speak, because we really like Shired Island. And my friend Anthony had the idea, because that was one of our cutoff points, starter end was Shired. He's like, "Hey, let's run it backwards. That way we can get 2 nights at Shired, run it from north to south. And then on leg 3, run it from, south to north." So started Shired Island, and then did, that whole section Shired and Gothi and Citrus.
Devil's Hammock.
Yeah, Citrus and all those ones. So that was kind of stage 2. And we actually ran that one solo. It was my father and I, just one vehicle, which is kind of cool because we actually met some really cool people. That's the other great thing about that, is like you meet really cool people on the trail. And we're actually staying in touch with one of them. We actually met up with them. They were just fellow nomad travelers. They were from New Jersey. They were just down traveling for a couple months and met them.
That's awesome, man.
Shired Island and stayed in touch.
Yeah, you guys were fortunate. You guys made it out to Shired, before it got officially shut down. They kind of like temporarily closed it after the hurricanes, and then it was closed but not really closed, and now it's like all the way closed.
That's exactly where we were. Where it was like, and it was actually honestly my favorite. So we've been there 3 times now, and then these 2 trips were my favorite ones because it was kind of closed. You're allowed to be there, but like there's no hookups, so there's no big RVs or buses couldn't get in there because there's like kind of sand piled up everywhere. There's no power or infrastructure, so it was like kind of felt like a real overlanding destination. Felt like you're in like Baja, Mexico or something.
Yeah. So that's on my bucket list, by the way.
Let's do it. We're in. So that was fun. So we ran leg 2 like that. And then we were going to do Rich Loam, was originally part of stage 2 for us, but since we were solo and I knew Rich Loam was like real deep water, and then my friend with the Jeep had been there like 4 or 5 or 6 times, like he's pretty familiar with that. Or like, let's just we called it, so we made we called an audible. We're like, okay, let's pull up one day short and we'll do Fat 2.5 like a couple weeks later with my buddy with the Jeep. So we did Fat 2.5. That was just a one day. We ran up, did Rich Loam with him. He'd been familiar with it, and just did that as a standalone. And he said that was extremely dry then, and then that was still crazy water. So don't mess around with Rich Loam. It's pretty gnarly.
Man. If you think you're going to go out and just run all the hard stuff in Rich Loam, especially on the back end of rainy season, good luck.
We ran into one lady that had a new Bronco, and I think she rode it. She dunked it underwater, brought water right into the turbine. So it toasted it. I remember sitting in the the Bronco, which is, a pretty robust vehicle, right? 35-inch tires and good
Oh yeah.
and I have water over my boots in the vehicle. And that's that's like no joke, right? So
Yeah.
but it's really cool to be able to do that. Yeah.
So tell us about kind of the next section of the FAT that y'all ran.
So then we did FAT 3, which was my favorite one. And going into it, I was kind of thinking that'd be my favorite one because that was the area we've explored the least. I had been up to the year before. We did a 4-day trip, and I called it Panhandle Overland. Like I name all of our camps just to kind of plan it. And when we're talking about it, kind of make it easy. So we did that one, and that was actually that was the first time I went to Shire. We started at Shire and worked our way kind of. I don't think it was the exact fat line, but it's very kind of similar. And then up to Apalachicola. So that was the only part I had been kind of familiar with, but the actual like Panhandle part of the state was all new. So we started at Shire, and then these pictures there. So this is cool too. We had a bigger group, so we actually Expo 23. We had met somebody else that was camping kind of beside us. Actually, right there, the guy right in the middle chair there, Rollo, cool guy. We met him at Expo 23. He was kind of set up and camping beside us, and we had a pretty big group, so we invited him over. I'm like, hey man, come hang out with us if you want. Hit it off, became friends with them, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of had the idea to do the FAT at Expo 23. So he was part of the conversation, and he lives up in South Carolina, and we're like,
oh, sweet.
Hey, you're 100% welcome to run this with us. We know it's kind of a longer drive for you, but you're welcome to do it. So we stayed in touch, and as I'm planning the logistics, I kept him up to speed with it, and he's like, yeah, I'll definitely do a section with you. So he came down with his buddy Brian, and then did stage 3 with us, and then our friend Kyle did as well, and then Anthony met us the first night too. So night 0 on that one was real fun. It was like perfect weather, like a Corona ad. And again, this is still when Shire was kind of in the gray area when it was closed.
Yeah.
We actually set up under the big pavilion structure, had our chairs, had a propane fire pit under there. I'm like, we're probably never going to be able to do this again. So let's like take advantage and enjoy it. So it was like, that was super cool. That was probably my favorite night 0 out of all of them. So we had a great time with that. And then, then we just got up and hit it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. What I did on that particular part of the trip is, at this point, I've already spent a lot of time riding with Josh. So I spent one of the days riding with Kyle and his 4Runner, and one with Rollo and his 4Runner, and then one with Brian and his 4Runner.
Oh, that's awesome.
I rode with everybody but Josh. Get to spend a whole day where you really get to know somebody, right? And just hang.
Oh yeah, you do, man.
And because these are not short days. These are,
no,
you're working, man. These are long days, and you're cutting trees, you're wading through water, and I could tell the guys from Brian and Rollo were pretty, because the first day is pretty tame, right? It's the roads are decent, but day 2 and 3, like they're like, and Rollo has a brand new like beautiful like 4Runner. Of course, the pinstripe. He's like walking around with chainsaws. He's trimming miles of hedges, like walking through like the water knee deep and cutting trees. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so it was great. It was a lot of fun to spend time with those guys, and I hope we get to Rollo and Brian. I'm reaching out. I want you guys let's do another one in the future.
That's awesome, man. What did you guys think of that? One of the kind of hidden gems on the FAT, in my opinion, not hidden gems that it's hidden on the FAT, but that a lot of people just didn't know that it existed, is that is right over there in Big Bend, the Big Bend management area with the land bridge that we have pictured here. What did you guys kind of think once you saw that? Obviously you'd seen pictures and video of it, but once you experienced it for yourself, tell me a bit about that experience.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool because that whole section of the state is like not developed, right? Everywhere else in Florida, especially the East Coast, anything on the coast is basically a giant city, right? From Miami to Jacksonville, essentially. And then on the West Coast, other than like kind of Tampa to Naples, it's like not developed. And so it had that very cool kind of remote, like, oh, we're in the middle of nowhere kind of feeling. Felt, very dispersed, very remote. I just really liked that vibe, but it was, again, the whole kind of the Big Bend curve part of the state was very cool. It's very, very remote, very, undiscovered. There's a lot of off grid kind of places to explore. So there's
absolutely. So once you guys got out of the Big Bend area, you went into Tate's Hell and Apalachicola and Eglin Air Force Base and all of that. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah. So prior to that, I can't remember. I can look on the map, but one of the it was actually very close to this bridge, and you know the names of everything better than I do, John. But near here, I remember on the map.